We've got some more incredible news when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 as things are continuously ramping up to the April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. This is stuff that's absolutely incredible for fans of the Nintendo Switch, especially if you're looking forward to what's going to be happening with third-party developers and other big games coming over to the platform. Now, what we're going to start off with is Xbox and Phil Spencer. We've already seen that they've brought over a number of games from the Xbox series to the Nintendo Switch, brought over to a Nintendo platform, and things seem to be continuing here based off of a recent interview that Phil Spencer did with Gamer Tag Radio. So here is what he had to say when one of the hosts asked him about the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal. Quote, "I was exchanging emails with Furukawa-san, the CEO of Nintendo. I gave him a big congrats and said my old eyes appreciate the larger screen. Nintendo, their innovation, and what they mean in this industry. I just always applaud the moves that they make. They did a little flash video, and I know we'll get more details over time. I'm really looking forward to supporting them with the games that we have, and I just think they're a really important part of the industry. Nintendo and their innovation and what they mean in this industry, I just always applaud the moves that they make. And I know we'll get more detail over time. Really looking forward to supporting them with the games that we have. And I think they're such an important part of the industry. It's hard with what's publicly out there now about the platform for everybody to get their hands around it. But who would ever bet against the success of that team? They are just masterful in what they do. Switch is a massive success, and I think the Switch 2 will be as well. So that's one thing that we're seeing already. Like, we're seeing different developers, publishers, whatever the case is, come out and say things about the Nintendo Switch 2. But I do think that his words here, there's also an NDA in place. Nintendo is absolutely making sure that other developers, publishers don't talk about exactly what games they have. They can mention it. They can say, hey, we're looking forward to supporting it, or we love the Nintendo Switch 2, or we're going to bring this and that in terms of like games, but we can't say exactly what games those will be. Now, there's been some independent developers that have came out and said, yeah, we'll put our games on this, but the big publishers that we know that are putting games on the Nintendo Switch 2 have not said anything, like Ubisoft, for example, but they did come out and say, hey, we love the Nintendo Switch 2 on a Twitter post afterwards. So I do think that that announcement gave the go-ahead to at least say, yeah, we're supporting it, we can mention it, we can talk about it. Phil Spencer here was very careful with his words, because obviously if you're emailing back and forth with the president of Nintendo, there's definitely more than just congratulations going on, especially since Phil Spencer confirms once again here that they will be bringing games over. They will be bringing games to the platform. Now, this goes back to the stuff that we've been covering now for a few vids now, and even back to what Mr. Nate the Hate said on the Nate the Hate podcast, where he said there's going to be major support from Microsoft. So what were those games? It's stuff like Halo, the Master Chief Collection, Flight Simulator, and more coming over. Now, we did do some updates when it comes down to stuff like Starfield, in addition to Fallout, other big games that Microsoft owns under their umbrella of game studios. But now we do have a little bit more of an update. So once again, we talked about different games. Diablo 4, Call of Duty, which we do know is coming over. That's confirmed because of the big agreement that Microsoft and Nintendo agreed to because of the Activision Blizzard purchase and all that, and like the court case. Fallout, Starfield, Elden Ring, these are all games. But now we have some other updates. And one of the big games that recently got dated for a multi-platform release was Doom: The Dark Ages. And now there is another rumor coming from the same person that we've been talking about when it comes to all these different games, Mr. Xtas1s. He's actually came out and said, yep, Doom: The Dark Ages will be coming over to the Nintendo Switch 2, and also shared that Nintendo isn't letting certain publishers share information on their Nintendo Switch 2 games until the April Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which once again makes sense. For those who don't know, Nintendo did the exact same thing with the Nintendo Switch 1. Even with the games that we saw Skyrim back in 2016 at the Nintendo Switch First Look trailer that dropped in October of 2016. We saw Skyrim, we saw NBA 2K, we saw different games, but those publishers were not allowed to talk about those games. They weren't even allowed to confirm that those games were even there. They're just like, yeah, we can't really talk about it right at this point. And then they spoke about it more at the big January 2017 Nintendo Switch presentation. So it's pretty much the same thing here with these big publishers. These big publishers, they probably are not allowed to say anything until that big April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, where Nintendo will actually reveal what they've been working on, the features and details of the system, probably what's happening with pre-orders, in addition to a host of other content, more big games coming over. And this time, it's going to be way bigger than what they saw with the Nintendo Switch, because the Nintendo Switch came off of two systems where Nintendo was kind of at their lowest point, or one of their lowest points. But now with the Nintendo Switch, not only have they continued to sell for the past 7-8 years, but the system is doing incredible, one of the best selling systems of all time, and still has momentum in a lot of regions. It still sells plenty of software, so there's going to be a lot more third-party developers, big ones, especially with the specs that we're thinking that's in here based off of leaks. There's going to be a lot more third-party developers that are going to be supporting this system earlier and often, and I think it's going to help as long as Nintendo has those big first-party games to keep things going. But yeah, Doom the Dark Ages, that would absolutely be a great pickup with the Nintendo Switch 2, just because we did see Doom and Doom Eternal on the Nintendo Switch, and from what we've understood when it comes to some of the developers that have spoke out about porting games from the PlayStation or Xbox or PS5 and Xbox Series to the Nintendo Switch 2 is easier and better than porting from the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One to the Nintendo Switch 1. So that's definitely a good thing. Doom the Dark Ages, it seems like a game that's going to be able to scale though because of that id Tech and what they do. Obviously, there was Doom on the original Nintendo Switch, Doom 2016 on the Nintendo Switch 1, and people felt that was an impossible port considering what they were doing on PlayStation 4 and everything. So I do think that it's going to be on there. It's a more single-player focused Doom game where they're really packing in all of the content. No multiplayer at all. They're focused on that single-player experience, and it looks like they're going to be having a bunch of cool things. I wish I could play more first-person shooter games, but I just get nauseous overall, and I don't really feel like taking medication in order to play a game. First-person games just get me nauseous. But yeah, I'll probably buy it. I buy all the Doom games, all the recent ones. I bought Doom Eternal. I bought Doom 2016. So I'll probably buy this one at some point when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2 or whenever. But yeah, either way, it's definitely a good update that more of these games are going to be coming. And I think that we can probably see a lot of this stuff that we went over the past week or so. We can see it at that Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct on April 2nd. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Now, let's get into a little bit more with the Nintendo Switch 2. That's good news for fans that are looking for better quality and faster speeds with the Nintendo Switch 2 games. So Lexar says it's releasing a Nintendo Switch 2 compatible 1 terabyte micro SD Express card. Very good news. So Lexar China has made an announcement this week that it's about to release a new micro SD Express card. But the important bit here is that it will apparently be compatible with the Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo hasn't made any announcements about its storage plans for the console, while there have been rumors pointing to possible micro SD Express card. As of now, that's yet to be confirmed. It's interesting that Lexar China has made this announcement and has reason to believe that its product will work on Nintendo's new system. The company went as far as to say that it's a NS must-have. The new micro SD Express card will come in 1 terabyte. An actual release date hasn't been provided, but we know it's due out sometime mid-February. Now, rumors about the Nintendo Switch 2 supporting micro SD Express cards have been ongoing for some time. For instance, earlier this month, different sizes were apparently listed in GameStop's system. As for the current Nintendo Switch, as system owners know, it's compatible with regular micro SD cards. The highest amount supported is 2 terabyte through micro SD XC. So very interesting there, but I think at this point, it is a foregone conclusion that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be supporting the micro SD Express cards, which are better quality, faster SD cards that are going to be able to transfer the data, load things quicker than what we saw with the regular SD cards, the regular micro SD cards overall. So this is great. This is great for the Nintendo Switch 2. and we still have to wait and see exactly what memory and how fast it's going to be for the internal memory overall. It doesn't seem like Nintendo's going to have some type of SSD, but what they are going to have are these micro SD express cards that definitely have SSD-like speeds at the lowest end. Now, don't expect the fastest blazing speeds of SSDs that are out there, the newest ones and all of that, but do expect better than what we got with the Nintendo Switch 1, where things were slower in terms of the transfer data speeds and all of that. But these micro SD express cards are absolutely a good step above what we've gotten before, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to be implemented with the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, moving on to the final topic, I thought this would be pretty interesting to share with you guys because there's been something that I've been saying about the Nintendo Switch that is absolutely abnormal with these sales considering how old the platform is. Shout outs to my man Pierre485 over on Twitter, and he had this to say about the Nintendo Switch sales in Japan in its year 8. So the Nintendo Switch sold 3.11 million units in Japan during 2024. That's the slowest year for the system to date, but an impressive result nonetheless for its 8 years. So check this out, guys. In the 8-year performance, Mr. Pierre485 compared multiple other systems: the Nintendo 3DS, Nintendo DS, PS1, PS2, PS3, and the PlayStation Portable. And out of all of those, only the PlayStation Portable, the PSP, was able to even get near 2 million units at 1.9. Every other system in its 8-year was significantly lower. And I would say even like with the PlayStation 2, that is the big one to look at because people are wondering if the Nintendo Switch can pass up the PlayStation 2. Well, if you're looking at it this type of way and the performance and the rate of sales, absolutely it has a chance considering it did 2 million plus more and the best-selling system of all time in its 8th year. So if Nintendo handles this right with price drops and other things, they can absolutely outsell the PlayStation 2 considering it's far outpacing it with these sales here in Japan in the final year. And I would think even worldwide, it's probably outpacing it as well. That's why it's even close to the PlayStation 2 in the first place. Same thing goes with the Nintendo DS. That is the second best-selling system of all time. And with the Nintendo DS, that's actually even lower than the PlayStation 2 in its 8th year. But we do know that the Nintendo Switch is going to pass up the Nintendo DS this year. The Nintendo Switch is probably around 150 million units or so after the holiday period, and the Nintendo DS is around 153 million, so it only needs about 3 million or so more, and eventually Nintendo will burn through the rest of that stock that they do have, because they still have a lot of Nintendo Switch 1 hardware in their warehouses that can be sold because people are still going to buy it. Despite the Nintendo Switch 2 coming out this year, people are still going to buy the Nintendo Switch 1. So this is definitely a really crazy stat that I saw. I want to give big love to Mr. Pierre because he's the only person that I've seen put this information out there already. And even if you look at the January sales, Nintendo Switch had another solid performance, being number 2 overall when it comes to NPD and being the number 1 in Japan, and I think number 2 in Europe as well. So it's still kind of crazy, but the Nintendo Switch 2 is coming. That's definitely going to put a dent into the hardware sales even more. But man, if Nintendo drops the price down and gets people in at a really low entry cost, then maybe gets them to upgrade or have a second one or whatever the case is, or just have it for collectors, I do feel that the Nintendo Switch will be able to, of course, pass up the Nintendo DS, but then also pass up the PlayStation 2 eventually at some point. But what are your thoughts overall with everything that we discussed here, guys? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.